Welcome to the broadcast, my dears. It is the most gorgeously rainy day here. Beautiful. I'm drinking in every drop. I do love a nice grey, drizzly day. Now, before we begin on this broadcast, I'm sending out a call to all Basketeers. And I did something similar perhaps a year and a half ago. And it's to do with the comment section. I try and go through as many comments as I possibly can, but you try going through all the comments on just one of my videos. It can take hours for one video, and even with the best will in the world, comments keep coming in months after they've gone out. And it's a real anxiety of mine that I miss things that you want to tell me or that you want to say. It really does sit with me quite a lot. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a point of making sure that I read every single comment that is left on this particular video that passes YouTube censors, because they delete a few of them off of their own back, as you know. Every comment that comes in by the end of this month. Okay, so by the end of August 2024, I will read every single comment, unless there's something utterly disparaging and hateful that will get deleted by my administrators or moderators before I get a chance to see them. But if that isn't the case, then I will see every comment you leave me. So if there is something that you have wanted to communicate to me and haven't been sure if it has reached me or want it to reach me, you can do so on this video, please. In particular, I'm interested to hear from those of you who have your own channel, not royal related especially, but anything at all. You can leave a link, or you can leave a comment from your own channel. Please bear in mind that any comment you leave with a link will go to my comments that are held for review, but I will see them and I may publish them publicly. So not all comments will reach the public, but I will see them. I may decide to delete some of your comments if I feel that they are sharing sensitive information, or I don't want other people nosying in on them. Don't be offended or take it personally, and understand what I'm trying to do, but this is the chance to leave them. I'm interested to hear about you. I'm interested, please don't write essays, my dear, you understand, or it'll take me all year. But I am interested in what you do, your vocations. We did this, you'll remember, long-term Basketeers, we did this last year. This is why I'm taking the time, because I really found it very interesting to hear about you. Everyone has a story, even the most quiet, humble lives has a story to tell. But keep as succinct as you can, my dear, you understand. If you are a person of note, a celebrity, or you're from an aristocratic family and you wish me to know, if you have a royal connection, if you are royalty, you know, you might remember some of the videos I made where I shared information from the Princess of Yugoslavia's daughter, for example, Christina Oxenberg, and I only found that she was a Basketeer, got in communication with her by chance, because she was writing to me under a pseudonym here in the broadcast, and it was only information I picked up, and when I realised who she was, I quizzed her about it, and she admitted it, and we had some fun together with some broadcasts, didn't we? And I was able to share the exclusive story of how she killed Princess Michael's horse, which was wonderful, and it was marvellous, but it was all because I put two and two together in the comment section, not because she told me. And I've been contacted behind the scenes by many highfalutin people, which is great, but many of them wish to remain confidential, understandably. But let me know, dears. Let me know who's watching, who's out there, and I can be utterly discreet when the need is to be so, of course. But if you want a whisper shared, then I'm sure my Basketeers would be delighted. As long as I can verify who's talking to me. You know, I'm not some mug that's going to be reeled in by interlopers. But I make no secret about the fact, pretentious as it may be, that I love hearing from stars, I love hearing from celebrities, I love name dropping, I love hearing the name drops and receiving them from other people. I absolutely adore all of that. And regular viewers will know that we've already had a pop star in our midst, an 80s icon, we've already had a director, we've already had intimate acquaintances of those who were involved in the coronation behind the scenes, and a whole host of insiders and icons in our midst. So I'm keen to hear from you and regular peasants and paupers and commoners. You know, anyone at all. Anybody who has wanted to impart information to me. Now you have the opportunity to do so. You can tell me who you are, you can tell me what you know, and spill the tea in whatever way you fancy, my dear. Now, on with the show, and we must start off with a slightly more serious issue, but hopefully rather heartwarming as well, and that is the subject of Southport and the brutal stabbings that took place there. Recently, we've been remembering B.B. King, Elsie Stankham, and Alice de Silva Aguiar. The King has been in Southport to express his continued support for those who have been affected by the 29th of July attack and the riots which followed. His Majesty met members of the community outside Southport Town Hall and in a private meeting spent time with some of those who were present at the Heart Space Community Centre when the attack took place. The King also spoke to community leaders and Merseyside's police, fire and rescue and ambulance services, hearing about their response to recent events in the area. And thanks were offered to the frontline emergency services for their selfless dedication. And the general consensus seems to be that the timing was absolutely right, that the King got it just right, and that he has brought comfort to the community. And my thoughts go out to the German Basketeers today, because we hear of another horrific stabbing going on in Germany at some diversity rally, apparently. Just sickening. Absolutely sickening. Especially when kiddies are involved, but at any time. Let's move on to something a little more mischievous, and that is to take a little peek at Meghan's former home, because it's up for grabs. Her rented accommodation in Toronto. Let's be nosy Parkers, shall we, and have a little sniff round. I'm sure we've done so before in the past, because it was sold in 2018 after she moved out. It was sold then for $1.6 million, and now it's up for $1,895,000 initially. 10 Yarmouth Road, the address is, and this is where she lived when Suits was being filmed, of course, and when she began dating Prince Harry. The scene of many a crime, I'm sure. She rented it for 2 years from a stylist friend, I'm told, which was Elizabeth Cabral. And there is an open house for it today and tomorrow, so if you're in the area, you can trot down there, my dear. I don't know why you'd want to. But, it's a cute enough looking property. I prefer old properties, but it's a cute enough property, I suppose, if you like grey and white throughout every room. But the Tiffany coloured front door is how it is described, a Tiffany blue. It's nice to have a little bit of colour on there, isn't it? And inside you will find 2 spa-inspired bathrooms, and the write-up for it is an exercise in extraneous adjectives, perhaps, which I'm sure I'm guilty of as well from time to time. A serenely private, deep and lush backyard retreat for families, spelt with an apostrophe for some reason, for families to adore and entertainers to revel. Presumably they mean to revel in. A desirable location cherished by families, spelt correctly this time, the plural, academics and celebrities. Irresistible. Now I'm going to read out a slightly spiky comment here from Blonde Gravy, who was quizzing me on a phrase that I used in the previous broadcast, where I used the phrase sweet Jemima, and you'll hear me say this. I've said it a few times because it's a catchphrase of mine belonging to a friend and I. Oh, sweet Jemima. Or sweet Jehoshaphat sometimes, I will say. I'll read the comment out. If stating that women should find their voice and that men should listen is outdated, we should also see sweet Jemima as the racist and outdated phrase it is. Do you know the history and meaning behind the Aunt Jemima character? And then she says, JW again. I don't know what that means. I watch almost every video you make, but this is another racially charged statement you said. Apparently it's racially charged to say sweet Jemima, because she's drawn connotations with Aunt Jemima. Firstly, don't police my language. Don't police my language. Even if you consider it racially charged, I don't care. Even if you consider it racist, I don't care. So you don't need to point out what you consider microaggressions or clumsiness. It's not welcome here. Secondly, as my viewers know, I've got more family, more friends, more lovers that are blacker than night than you've had hot dinners. So I don't need to justify myself to you, even though I just sort of did Please, pussy clut. Thirdly, and you might not realise that not everything revolves around your country, but we don't have the Aunt Jemima brand here in the kingdom. We're not au fait with it at all. When it comes to Jemima, I think of Jemima Khan, Jemima Potts, daughter of Caractacus and Jitty Jitty Bang Bang. You know, that's what I think of, my dear, not Aunt Jemima. But more to the point, I didn't say Aunt Jemima. I said Sweet Jemima, so you've jumped to the wrong conclusion. You said in your comment that Sweet Jemima is a racist and outdated phrase. Well, I knew that the way I was using it certainly wasn't, so I googled it, Sweet Jemima, and you can try it yourself. It doesn't exist as a phrase. So I don't know why you're saying that it's a well-known racist phrase. Because it doesn't exist. Why doesn't it exist? Because I invented it, together with a friend of mine. Yes, I did. You will hear me say Sweet Jemima, Sweet Jiminy Cricks sometimes. Instead of Jiminy Cricket, I will say Sweet Jiminy Cricks, or Sweet Jehoshaphat, or Shish Kebab. Sometimes I will say Shish Kebab, because I like to invent terms and phrases, rather like I did for my coffee the other week. I invented the Blanche Devereaux, and some of you have been trying it out and really enjoying it. You know, I use my imagination for this kind of things, my dear. And I can tell you the etymology of where Jemima came from and who Jemima was. I attended a wedding on the Isle of Wight at an old 60s holiday camp that was let out for weddings and engagements. It was one of the most fabulous weddings I've ever been to, and I read out a rendition of The Owl and the Pussycat for my friend on the cliff tops. Wonderful, wonderful it was. And we slept overnight on the old campsite in caravans, and a friend of mine, who happens to be a brown girl, by the way, from a Muslim family, we spent the evening in the company of a certain gentleman. She had designs on him. But he turned out that he was rather peculiar. He was a handsome-looking bloke, but rather peculiar. And it was in the very early hours of the morning, and he brought out this doll that he'd taken with him to the holiday camp. She was called Jemima, and she looked like a collection of rags, really, my sort of raggy doll affair. But as he was getting more drunk and more intoxicated, he was telling us about his affections for the doll and how he expressed his affections for the doll. And I'll leave you to use your imagination, but it's no wonder that she was looking well worn, let's put it that way. She was looking well worn, well used. And of course we were looking at each other and made a quick escape as soon as we could when we realised what was going on. And we giggled about it, and we would, any time there was something saucy or unusual going on, we would say to her, Sweet Jemima, and we would remind ourselves of Jemima the doll. That is how that phrase came into being. It's a very personal phrase, my dear, because this chap was getting frisky with a doll. Poor Jemima. So, you know, I lost patience with you quickly, my dear. You are a cynical comment comer, and I've no idea. You could be a very good basketeer in other respects. You say you watch every broadcast. You must have some sort of affection for me. But I don't want cynical comment combers who comb through everything I say to find the racism or find the prejudice. You know, if you seek, you'll find it. You'll find something objectionable. Well, this time you peed up the wrong lamppost, my dear. You peed around the wrong corner, because there is no such phrase as Sweet Jemima related to anything racist. Do you see? These individuals are completely and utterly gaga. Completely and utterly gaga. You won't lecture me. Even if I chose to say something racist and outdated, you won't lecture me, my dear. No, this is my playground. Now, in case you missed it, somebody very important in the late Queen's life died at the age of 91, and that was Ginny Airlie. The Countess of Airlie died on the 16th of August, and she was the long-serving lady of the bedchamber to Queen Elizabeth II. And it's quite unusual because she was an American. Yes, indeed she was. Queen Elizabeth liked to have Ginny on duty when American officials and presidents are in town. It was very handy, so she brushed shoulders with Bush and Obama and Trump, and her husband was Lord Ogilvy, a very elegant man. We've spoken about him before. We spoke about his death last year. And he served as Lord Chamberlain of the Household and had been a childhood friend of Lilibet's. and his brother Angus married Princess Alexandra, and I devoted an entire broadcast to Princess Alexandra some months ago. And the press loved her. She had an easy way with them, and she was very popular within the household. She was born in Mayfair, and she came from Wall Street money. Actually, it was a mixture of Wall Street, and on her mother's side there was finance. It was the family of a financier. She remained with the late Queen until the end of her reign. So she will be greatly missed, but what a life well lived. And I send my love to her family, some of whom will be watching the broadcast. His Majesty has rehomed the British Hen Welfare Trust's 1 millionth hen at Highgrove Gardens. Henrietta arrived with 29 other hens earlier this month and was named by the King. The trust works to rehome commercial laying hens, and she arrived in a bespoke carrier made by Lulu Guinness. Isn't that fun? And looking at the photographs always reminds me of Bellina, the hen, who I had an obsession with. I think the name was Bellina. In Return to Oz with Feruza Balk, who I also loved. It gave me a passion for hens, as well as the fact that I grew up very close to a farm around the corner and would go and help out there and became fond of the hens in childhood. But then a few years ago I was tasked with looking after some hens for a friend while they were on holiday, about 6 of them, and they terrified me. They absolutely terrified me. Never again. Never again. They're so adorable and cuddly, aren't they, with their brown feathers and their plumptious bodies. And you think, oh, would be wonderful in a soup. But it's the head, it's what's above the neck, and those claws! Oh, they've got such potential for hazard, haven't they? Such potential. Those eyes, those reptilian eyes above the neck, and those claws. Oh, I was absolutely petrified to feed them. But I got through it. Did you see the footage of a soldier taking a tumble outside the palace? Poor chap. Everything caught on camera these days. Poor guy. And then, of course, there is the King's Guard, who served with ceremonial duties during the late Queen's funeral. Well, he was crowned Mr. England this week. Manuel Alcantara Turner, who also performed duties at the coronation, is going to be representing the country at Mr. World in Vietnam later in the year. He serves as a Lance Corporal with the Coldstream Guards and was also deployed to Kenya twice. Good news regarding the good work of the Royal Foundation, originally founded by William and Harry, but now headed by the Prince and Princess of Wales. And their accounts were published by the Charity Commission. Income hit £8 million. And this is in addition to the many fundraising revenue streams that they have, including the 23 million that was raised by the Earthshot Award last year. Well, 6.5 million came in from donations, including 1.7 million from American supporters. And this has eclipsed the Harkles. They're supposed to be King and Queen of America, aren't they? That's how they fancy themselves. Well, Archewell's most recent accounts, if you recall, dipped from £10.3 million in donations to just 1.6 million in the last account session. Harry's projects still benefit, by the way, from the Royal Foundation's revenue, which receives an income from the Diana Princess of Wales Memorial Fund. Harry is entitled to a half share of that income. Last year, that's £7,000, so it wasn't much, but it was still £7,000 that was sent to Sentebale for the African orphans. Well, at least it's for a good cause. Archewell, with their strapline, "Show up, do good," produced a montage this week, behaving as if they are king and queen of all they survey, announcing 3 donations: the expansion of a socio-emotional gym program, the upgrading of a secure environment for local children to explore and learn, and some drum sets. And here's the type of comment I'm talking about that sometimes goes under my radar. I just discovered this recently, but it was left 6 months ago by Philippa Wallace Dunlop. Thank you for the comment, Pippa dear. Who said, "Dear River, my Uncle Bill William Bertram, worked for Prince Charles for decades, overseeing all constructions within the Duchy of Cornwall and the south of England as a whole for decades. I was lucky enough to live with them for a year or so during a family house move and appreciated the whole experience, not least of which being his creative ray, which shone from every room, plant and glory hole? What have I written down there? Every room, plant and something hole. Oh, cubby hole. Cubby hole. He's at the top of his game and at over 80 and has just written a book that has his story about, actually the book, I did look into this, my dear, the book was written in 2009, so a few years ago, but it has his story about making tree houses for the princes in Highgrove. In case you're interested, it looks like a fabulous read. I bought it. The Architect's Tale by William Bertram, now called Willie, though will always be Uncle Bill to me. Yes, he is known as Willie, as you say, my dear, and that is how he is known to Prince Charles, now the King. Well, after reading your comment, Pippa dear, I did send off for the book. I thought it would be useful to have. I haven't read it, but I have read the chapters that relate to royalty, the 2 chapters there. So I haven't read it all the way through, but he does have a nice, easy, chatty, gossipy style. So if other Basketeers want to look into it, that's your own affair. The Architect's Tale by William Bertram. But yes, the first chapter about royalty was a royal appointment, and that, just to sum it up for you a little bit, tells us how he was introduced to the Prince of Wales as he was by Luke Ritter, or Sir Luke Ritter. This incident took place in about 1987, but Luke Ritter was the CEO, or became CEO, I'm not sure of the timings, of the Royal Academy of Dance, and he was very much involved with the Arts Council, which is an organisation I worked for a little time when I was temping. The Arts Council and the Bath Festival, very involved in the Bath creative and artistic and architectural communities. And through his work with the Arts Council, actually, that was when he first met with the Christies at Glyndebourne, which I've also spoken about before. And as I say, I like to name drop, so yes, I know 1 or 2 of the Christies because I know Glyndebourne very well and worked at Glyndebourne intimately. So we have both those connections in common. And he had been to see the opera there, and he met Prince Charles after watching an opera. And Prince Charles told Luke Ritter that he was frustrated that he couldn't find the right architect, a sympathetic architect, for Highgrove. And Luke Ritter mentioned William Bertram, and towards the end of the evening, Prince Charles said, well, I'll take his number. I'm really looking for an architect. And of course, when the call came through, or when William heard about this, that Prince Charles was interested, he was pinching himself, he says. Pinching himself, it was like a dream, and it gives you the goosies to read about it. When his assistant calls up and says, it's the palace for you on the phone, my dear, it's the palace for you. And Luke said to Willie, Prince Charles is charming. You'll find that you can't help but look him in the eye. And Madonna said the same about Prince Charles, that he is a very charming man. Sexy, in fact. And Prince Charles went on to expand upon his vision for Highgrove during a meeting at Highgrove, and Willie was able to come up with some sketches for him, preliminary sketches. And Willie mentions a bright pink Gothic doorway into the garden at Highgrove, and apparently this is because the late Queen Mother favoured the colour, the pink colour, and she had all of her gates painted the same bright pink. So Charles had done the same to give her pleasure when she visited and also to remind him of her. So that's rather sweet. And he also tells us that Prince Charles had a firm and muscular handshake. And he managed to conjure up lots of designs for the gates at Highgrove and actually for some beehives and the way they were arranged. He went on to work on over 30 projects at Highgrove. 30 of them. It was a great success. And then in the 14th chapter of this book, Win Some and Lose Some, April 1988, a handwritten letter arrived, and it was Prince Charles asking if Willie would very kindly design for the 2 princes a tree house at Highgrove for a joint birthday present. And Prince Charles had identified an old holly tree in his new arboretum, a 35-foot tall holly tree. William was 5 at this time, and so this architect, Willie Bertram, was able to have a chit-chat with the young William at a Christmas party that was thrown by Prince Charles, where William and Harry were helping hand out all the nibbles to the guests, we are told. And he says that Prince William at age 5 was very confident indeed. And he says that when he told the young prince that his name was William too, and that he would use the logo of a bee to carve into the tree house and various projects as a symbol for his surname Bertram, but he said, I'm a William too. Apparently Prince William sort of puffed up a little bit, and he said, my name, Mr. Bertram, is Prince William. So he was very, very self-assured at a young age, but I guess we should cherish that. Well, then a year later, in 1988, they continued to meet at Highgrove to discuss the plans for the tree house. William had said that he wanted it as high as possible, and he wanted a rope ladder that he could pull up so that nobody else could come and find him. He really wanted to be secluded, probably trying to get away from Harry, let's face it. But Prince Charles insisted that there would also be a ladder as well, so that there wasn't just a rope ladder. And as you can see, there were holly leaf-shaped railings designed for it, which I think is rather whimsical and rather fun. And he sent the designs to Kensington Palace for approval, and it was completed in time for William's 7th birthday in June 1989. And on one occasion, the late Princess of Wales, Diana, caught them up the tree, and she said, I hope you two know what you're doing. It all looks jolly dangerous to me. And Charles said to her, Willie's got it all in hand, darling, don't you worry. And there was an official tape-cutting ceremony performed by Prince Charles. Well, fact of the matter is, it was all a waste, because their sons outgrew the treehouse extremely quickly. It was too late, really, for them to enjoy it at its full potential. And the holly tree developed a fungus, honey fungus. And so the house was lifted off of it, and the tree was cut down soon after. And the remains are perched on a large deck that is raised only 6 feet off of the ground. And it was used by Mario Testino in 2003 for their official Christmas card, which shows the two princes peering through the holly leaf-shaped front door designed by Willie Bertram. But that wasn't the end of business, because Prince Charles generously hooked Willie Bertram up with John Cluge, who at the time Prince Charles told him was the second richest person in America. And there was one time when I believe he was the richest person in America. Cluge was a television maven, and he went on to give him a lot of work, to give Willie a lot of work at Albemarle House. So there you are, there's a little tidbit and a morsel from a tale that came to us straight from the uncle of a basketeer. And thank you very much for sharing with us, Pippa dear. I look forward to hearing more morsels and tidbits from you in the comment section. Let me know all about you, and I look forward to catching up with you all for a chinwag next time. Enjoy the rest of the weekend, and I'll see you soon. If you'd care to treat me, my tip jar can be found in the description box. Ta-ra, my dears, and toodle pip.